Okay, y'all, let's pick up where we left off last night. Um, we we briefly covered defining state in the topmost component of TicTacToe app. In this case, um, we'll we'll review that real quick. First, I want to uh, try to look at passing events real quick. Just review because just like a couple couple hiccups that we ran into when I was doing a demonstration might have made it seem a little more confusing than it should be. So we first things first, the component that we want to um, the component we expect the user to click on is the square, the bottommost component in the application. So that's where we register the on click. That should be kind of rule number one in your head. Is like if you need to have a if you need to handle some kind of event like a click or a form submission, like a password or username field, something like that, you go straight to the component where that's taking place. So basically, right down to the div or just the HTML element where that event is going to take place. So you set on click like this. It's an event handler given to you by React. And then what we're doing is, since we need to pass some data, some props that are given to Square by board, right? Like these props, kind of. We have to use an anonymous arrow function like this. And reason being, if the reason it has to be anonymous is because if you write it with something in here, you're actually going to capture the event data. So let's say you understandably said, "Oh, I need to pass the square." So I'm going to pass square here, and then up here we're going to pass square, right? And then up here we're going to console log square. Should be no problem, right? What you'll actually end up getting is the entire event itself. See, it'll even show you like it was a mouse event, it was a click, and sometimes you need this event. It comes with a bunch of stuff, default prevented. Sometimes you need to call event.prevent default. That's like if like when a form submits, the default behavior is to reload the page, and sometimes you need to prevent that because when the page reloads, it'll completely reset the app to its initial state. And so we won't worry about that for right now. You don't have to worry about that right now. When we come to it, you'll just know that this is actually an event. It's actually the literal event object that that's fired whenever we click on here. So instead, we just ignore that event altogether and pass props.square. Okay? And now handle click is going to expect the square instead of the event. Rather, the handle click is going to receive the square. It's not expecting anything. It doesn't really know. It doesn't know anything about square. So square gets passed along to handle board click up at the top. And if we save our changes, re-render, we'll see, there we go. There's the square. So in order to make this actually be useful, we need a little bit more information than just what's in each square. You know what I mean? Like that doesn't do much for us because it's basically just a string, you know. So it stands to reason that if we can pass one piece of props, we can actually pass all of the props, right? So maybe what we'll do is we'll just change this. These argument names don't matter, but just change them to make them more readable and make sense semantically. I'm going to put P because if I write props, it's going to conflict with the props in this board's context. So P, just in your head, P represents the props from square. You could also call it square props, like that. Maybe that helps. Square props, okay? And then in here, we're getting square props, and save all those, let it re-render, and there we go. Okay, these are all of the props that our square is getting. We've got the row, we've got the square, we even have the function that's handling the click. And if we click on like this one, we can see we get the row once again. We even get the square, which is really nice. And so yeah, that's pretty useful, right? Like we can use that for sure. So let's see here. Why don't you go ahead and review that? Go ahead and catch up to where I am. And also, if you haven't already, go ahead and refactor your app component into a class because we need to use this .state. And then we'll come back and talk about making the state changing the state from these events that we're writing.